Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling tune-up Tuesday. What tune-ups did you get done today? What little changes did you start making today to have a bigger impact down the road? Let's see. I had a wacky day today. It was crazy. I started off fine. Everything was going well. And then I was getting text messages from some people about the system, and so I went onto our communication system, and that was down. The system was down. So WhatsApp to the rescue. It was a crazy day. I ended up starting work a little earlier than normal just to help because of the call volume that was coming through at the time, and then that just started a really awesome day of different issues coming through, having fun. Didn't get anybody getting mad at us today, which was nice. We like that. It was a good day. It was lots of positivity. You know, people were upset that something wasn't working, but when we explained why or something, or explained how something happened, they were a little more settled because now they understood if it was something that they did or something they didn't do correctly, or if it was a system glitch, they had an answer, and that's all that That's all that mattered. So that was really cool. But it was a really, really good day. We had a lot of fun. Well, I did anyway. But yeah, I did. I had fun today. I've managed to watch. Let's see, on the chocolate course, 1, 2, 3 videos got watched today. So I've watched the first one was chocolate balls. Next was chocolate bites, which is actually making chocolate and putting it into molds. So I thought, I might have to get some molds if I am going to keep following that one. Because I've got to remember what I already have in my kitchen, what I already have in the RV, space-wise, that sort of thing as well. You know, do I really need to have a chocolate mold in the RV? I want little chocolate bites, probably. How often am I going to make them? I don't know. So we're going to sit on that one for a bit. And then we went into chocolate syrup. So those are the last kind of 3 or 4 days. Then today I learned about chocolate cake, which was kind of interesting. Chocolate mousse, which sounded really yummy. It was made up with avocado and banana and chocolate powder. And then just finished watching the video on making hot chocolate. And his hot chocolate had a pinch of cayenne pepper in there. I'm like, I'm leaving that out. And what was really funny is that he's sitting there and he's talking about all the health benefits of chocolate, and I'm just like, you're preaching to the choir. Just keep it coming. And then he takes a sip of chocolate, and all of a sudden he sort of goes, oh, that's right, I put spice in this. He'd forgotten he put some cayenne pepper into the hot chocolate, and it was just the tiniest of pinches. I thought, well, that's got a tiny pinch in there. I ain't putting none of that stuff in there. I don't even have cayenne pepper in my RV at all. Anything spicy. Well, actually, I do have one thing spicy. I just haven't opened it yet. I haven't been brave enough to try it yet. But when I get brave enough to try it, I will show you. But it's a really cute bottle. I got it because the bottle's really cute. Have you ever bought something just because you like them? You don't care what the contents are. You just want the bottle. In fact, somewhere in my storage, I have some old whiskey decanters that Brad and I started collecting. And they're the antique ones and the ones that are shaped to different things. Like we found one in New Zealand that was a kiwi shaped, kiwi bird, not kiwi fruit, kiwi bird, shaped whiskey decanter. So that was kind of cool to find that. But what was the one that started us off? I think we got like 3. We happened to be in an antique store looking for something. I don't remember what. I think we were just browsing. We were in West Virginia on our 4 or 5 day weekend that we were on, staying at this bed and breakfast that was on land that was owned by George Washington's family, as in the founding president, the first president of the U.S. So that was really cool. And the guy there was a bit of a historian and done a lot of study about the land and everything else. And he mentioned to us that the creek that we crossed over, because there's this cute little bridge that you drive across to get to the B&B, after going on a road that's like this, and they had these massive slow down signs on it, because you could literally get airborne off the rises of these hills and cause because the road was straight, but it was like this, all in one direction. There was no turns, no thing. It was just a straight road that went like this. And you could actually get airborne off those things. And there have been a lot of accidents and stuff along this road because of these humps. And so there were these big signs around about being cautious and blah, 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 blah. And so we took it. And after Brad hit the first one, he was like, yeah, now I see why those signs are there. And he wasn't even going there. He was going, I think, like 5 miles over the speed limit, and he almost got airborne. It did not take much. But anyway, we found their driveway, went down the driveway, went across this cute little bridge, and then the owners that evening, when we were sitting in the living room talking with them, mentioned that that creek that we crossed had actually been surveyed by George Washington himself, and he was 13. I'm sort of like, how did you find out this? You know, maybe in a genealogist, I'm sort of like, how did you find out about that? But we had a great weekend. We came across some antique stores and just going for I like looking through antique stores. I don't know, not necessarily to buy anything, but just to go in and have a look. And then maybe something that catches your eye and think, oh yeah, that would look pretty good. Da, da, da. But I haven't done any of that for a while since I have nowhere to put any of it. So I don't go looking. Because then I sort of get upset because I was like, I really want that, but where am I going to put it? I've got nowhere to put it, so I can't get it. So we're wandering through one of the antique stores, just doing a browsing thing, and we came across this whiskey decanter, and Brad was really, and it was a really cool price, and so we ended up getting it and taking it back home with us, and that was the beginning of his whiskey decanter collection. So we have, I think it's 3 we ended up with, and we were down in New Zealand at one point, and Brad couldn't believe I didn't negotiate the price, and I said to him, by the time you do the conversion rate, it's actually less than what we pay for the one that we've got at home already. So he's like, you're supposed to negotiate that sort of stuff. So I'm not good at doing that. It says, you want to negotiate it, you go in and negotiate. It's not too late now, you've already bought it. But it had a kiwi bird on it, so I took it back home from New Zealand. From there, and it actually survived the trip home, so that was pretty cool. And then we've got another, what's the other one? I can remember them up on the shelf. There's 3 of them. But yeah, so that was the beginning of his whiskey decanter collection. So if we were somewhere and there was an antique store, we'd just go for a browse. So if we're up one of our drives, we'd go for a browse and have a look, and nothing of interest, get back in the car and just drive on. And it wasn't planned. It was all unplanned, which is some of the best trips ever. I got my writing done today too. I've been doing a lot of writing. Got my little timer here. I put it on 30 minutes, wherever the 30's gone, put it on 30 minutes. And when that thing goes off, I close the book, close my notebook. I have no idea how many words I'm writing, but 30 minutes. And it's basically head down, tail up, and go. And I finished writing about our Alaska. Actually, I didn't finish writing about the Alaska cruise. I didn't even talk about our stop in Prince Rupert, which we just stayed on the ship anyway. But I did start writing about our 2011 when we went to, we flew into Prague and had 2 nights in Prague, and then got on the river cruise and went on the main Danube canal onto the Danube River down to Budapest. And the first night we boarded the ship was my birthday. And a lady we met that evening when we met up with 2 other couples and sitting there talking, we all went down to dinner together. This one woman was ended up sitting across from me, and Brad was between us at the end of the table. And it turned out to be her birthday as well. So we've been birthday buddies ever since, making sure we send each other birthday wishes and birthday cards every year since. And last year was our 10th anniversary, our 10th birthday that we'd had since we had first met. So now I'm going through that cruise, talking about what happened on that cruise, and just doing kind of a day at a time. So I've just done the flight from LA to Denver to Frankfurt to Prague. Just talked about that trip. Although I've only talked about half of that trip, because I haven't talked about the other half, which is when we arrived in Prague and got on the shuttle to take us to the hotel, and how we met somebody on the shuttle who was a travel agent and should not have been on this cruise, period. She had been really sick the days before leaving for the trip. She said, in fact, today's the first day I've eaten anything. I've been able to keep anything down and eat. And I'm like, and I look at Brad and go, and we're traveling from the States. I mean, that was, I can't remember which part of the States she was from, but that was like for us, it was like a 20-hour trip or something like that. It was a long trip. I've got it written in a travel journal somewhere. And then that included our 3-hour layover in Frankfurt and our 3-hour layover in Denver, and But yeah, so she should not have been on that ship. And half of the ship, including the crew, came down with a 24-hour stomach flu. And I was one that got hit by that. Brad, not a problem. And there was a couple of people that we pulled. We pulled the boat over, and we literally did pull the boat over to the shore. And they had a gangplank they could put out, and that an ambulance met us a couple of times on the river and would come on, and with the doctor and everything, they would examine the person to decide whether or not they needed to, could they leave them on the ship, or did they have to go to hospital, based on how bad they'd been hit by this 24-hour stomach flu bug. And so there were a couple of people that actually got taken off the ship, and they actually joined the cruise back again, like 48 hours later. It was like 36 to 48 hours later, because that was in the evening, and we had a full day. Yes, about 36 to 48 hours later, they got to join the cruise again. And the cruise manager kept in contact with them, checking to make sure that they had everything that they need. I believe there was people from head office for the cruise line as well, keeping in contact with them. And then they helped them get caught up with the ship and get back on the ship, so they could continue their cruise and stuff. But I said to Brad, I know exactly who brought this on board the ship, and they should never even step foot on the plane. They probably invested half the plane that they were traveling on as well. And I don't know how many flights they had. But she was, oh yeah, we're really looking forward to this cruise. It's my mother's 89, and yeah, she brought along her 89-year-old mother. Fortunately, the 89-year-old mother, oh my gosh, that woman was a party girl. That 89-year-old woman, man, could she kick up her heels and dance. And we had dancing every night, and she didn't care who she danced. She didn't care if it was male or female. She wanted to dance. And 89 years old, walks with a cane, but get her on the dance floor, there's no cane inside. I think the cane was more for balance while walking, or just some support. But she got on the dance floor in the evenings, and it didn't matter if it was male or female. She got on the dance floor and would dance with whoever wanted to dance with her. People were coming over, males and females were going over to her and saying, do you want to dance? And she had a blast on that cruise. And I could see where the person who had been sick may have been torn about, we really should cancel this cruise, but maybe the last cruise I get to do with my mum. So I get where she came from on that perspective. But as far as the repercussions of her decision, it was pretty bad. I mean, we got kicked off the ship early in Budapest, and because we were actually staying in there, we actually got a private car that took us to the hotel. The ship helped us actually arranged a private car for us and took us to the hotel that we were going to be staying in. And when we got there, we got the guy's card so we could, and told him that we needed to be picked, would he be able to pick us up on Monday? What would it cost to go out to the airport? So we prearranged all of that up front, got his phone number in case he needed, and, said this is where we're going to be staying. This is who you ask for when you call the front desk. In case he needed to contact us or we needed to contact him, we had the way to do that. And so we thought, like, well, that's one thing we don't have to worry about now, because come Monday morning, he'll be downstairs waiting for us, and he was there waiting for us on Monday morning, and took us out to the airport, and spoke very good English, and we had a great conversation with him on the 30-minute drive. He was like 20 to 30 minutes out to the airport, and he got us all situated out there and everything else. And but yeah, so we actually got kicked off the boat early on Friday, because it was basically get everything out of your cabin. As soon as that is done, exit your cabin, close the door, and you can't go back in there again. Did we close the doors? No, we had to leave the doors open. That's what we had to do, so that the crew knew that the cabins were now vacant and they could go in there. And they were starting at the back of the ship and working their way forward, and they were stripping everything, including cabins that had not even been used. They were stripping those rooms too of all the sheets, the towels, the bedding, everything. And then they were coming, and then they had people coming in behind, going in and doing the deep cleans, sanitizing cleans that they needed to do to try and eradicate any traces of this bug on board the ship. And man, they were working. I mean, we were at 7:00 in the morning, we're having breakfast, and after that it was like, I need to go to the restroom. And they're sort of like, because you couldn't use the public one. It's like, right, go back to it. And they looked down the hallway and go, what cabin are you in? I told them they couldn't see any sheets or anything outside. That's right, go down there, use your bathroom, and then come back and we'll put you in the car, because we still had like about a 15-20 minute drive to the hotel. I wasn't crossing my legs that long. But when we got to the hotel, fortunately the room was available for us, so we were able, no, it wasn't, so we were able to store our luggage, and then we went out for a walk around And but the first thing we did before we went for a walk around Budapest was that we got the 72-hour card. And the 72-hour card, that thing is like gold. You can get a 24, a 48, a 72, and I don't know if there's one after the 72 or not. I can't remember. But they it was like $80 US for 3 full days of using unlimited transportation. So we could use the trams, the buses, the train. We could use any of those to go anywhere in Budapest, anywhere. With these passes, we just showed and you didn't even have to show the pass. It was all an honor system, which absolutely amazed us. People, and you go press the button, you step on the bus, you get there, you hang on to your little handle thingy, and off the bus goes, and nobody comes and checks for your ticket. There's nothing that you have to swipe or anything to get on the bus with your ticket. So it was really cool, and it was all done on an honor system. But if they decided to inspect and you got caught without a ticket, it was a hefty fine. But we went all over Budapest with these 72-hour passes, and we could do, like I said, the trains, the trams, the buses. It was awesome. The trams ran on rails above ground. The trains were below ground. Then of course you just had the buses as well. And the buses would go over to the Pest side and up into the hills and everything else. They didn't have the trams going over there. I don't think they had the train. Oh, the trains may have. We never went over that side on the trains. But we went out, we went sightseeing. We found a little supermarket around the corner from us. And so we stopped in there and grabbed a few essentials that we were low on. And even though we couldn't read Hungarian, we could figure it out by the pictures on the packets is basically what we had to do. And we got our things in that, and then we went back to, and it was sort of like, okay, I'm done with, and we walked for ages, and it was sort of like, okay, I'm done. And we went back to the hotel. We let them know that we were back, and was there an area that we could sit in and wait? And it was a courtyard by Marriott. And they said, oh yeah, and they sent us over to an area. And so we found a place to sit down. They said, we'll let you know as soon as your room's ready. We've actually got them doing that first, so you don't have to wait very long. Oh, thank you very much. So we didn't have to wait till 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon to check in. We were actually checked into our room by like 10 o'clock in the morning. And our room was one of the first to be cleaned, just so they could get us in there and they didn't have us loitering in the lobby, even if we were in their seating areas and stuff. But we went up there and got situated and everything else, and then went out exploring again. So we had a blast those 3 days. And then the pass wasn't just on transportation, which is worth its weight in gold. There were discounts that you could get. You actually got a booklet with it, and there was discounts you could get at some places. Some of the museums you got free entry. Some of the museums you got a discounted entry fee. There were different stores you could go to. You present the card, you got like 10% off or 15% or 20%, 5%, whatever. So it was not only a discount card, it was a transportation card. It was a really gold piece of card to have. It was awesome. It was with what you could do with that card and where you could go was just phenomenal. And we thought, for $80, that was $80 US for both of us. So it was actually $40 per person. So in US dollars. So that was a really, really good deal. And we made the most out of that thing as we possibly could. And then we'd go back to our room and we'd rest up, have a nap, have a snack, have something to drink. And then we'd hit. And in our room, we looked out the window of our room. And we're like the 4th floor up. We're looking out. And there's a McDonald's directly across the road from us. So it was kind of fun watching people go in and out. And you go, do you think they're Hungarian or American? But we were right down. We got all the trams came past the front of the hotel, and then they turned and went down this road, and along with buses, which went to their depot area. So we were right down there in the center where all the hubbub was. So right out front of the door, there was a train stop, a bus stop, and a tram stop. So we didn't have to walk anywhere to go and get on a train or a tram or that. It was all literally right at our door. It was like, train's there, right? Just down the stairs. And there were guards on the gates and the train station. You just had to flash them your card or your ticket, and it's like, yep, keep going. They'll just nod. You'd walk on. But yeah, our 3 days in Budapest was awesome. We went to some of the places that they had taken us to on the bus tour that they had done on the full day we had, which was the day before disembarkation. On the Thursday, we went back to some of those places because we wanted to hang out around there a little more, or have more time there, or because the day before it was raining. So, we're kind of running through the rain and that sort of thing. And so it's like, well, let's just go there and walk around at this time. It's dry. Yes, it's still cold, but it's dry. We don't have to worry about the rain. We can read more of the plaques that are out there. We can take some decent pictures. So that's what we went and did, and we just had a blast. What do you feel like doing? Actually, I'm feeling a little tired. Let's go back to the hotel, grab something to eat and drink, and we took bottles of water with us everywhere. And so we went and we did that, and would take an afternoon nap and then go out, and then in the evenings we'd catch the train as close as we could get to where the Christmas market was, because we discovered that during the day it was very touristy and there were only select stalls open for the tourists. You go down in the evening, there were about twice as many stalls open, booths open. There was a lot of different food carts options available, and all the locals were down there. And so I was like, this is what I want. I want to be hanging out with the locals. And didn't have a problem with the language barrier at all, except for one time when they had this fish sandwich and I could see a slice of onion on it, and I wanted it without the onion because I'm allergic to onion, so didn't want to eat that. And this woman didn't speak English and I didn't speak Hungarian, but this other lady comes over and she says, excuse me, she says, I actually happen to speak both languages. May I be of assistance? I was like, oh, thank you so much. I said, I just want a fish sandwich made but without the onion because I'm allergic to onions. And so she just went blah, 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 blah. Came back and said, yep, I'll make you one. I said, thank you very much. And helped us with the transaction and everything. And then off she went on her way. I thought, that's pretty cool. And so I went and had my fish sandwich without the onion in it. And it was really good. Oh my gosh, that was a good fish sandwich. That was a good fish sandwich. And that's the place that Brad discovered the white chocolate apple strudel. He was on dessert one night, so he goes and he finds the bakery booth. And I wish I could remember the name of that bakery. I wonder if I have a photo of it somewhere. I have to go back and have a look. But that bakery booth was amazing. They had a whole menu on there. And he goes down looking for chocolate. He comes across this white chocolate apple strudel. He brings it back. I'm not a huge fan of white chocolate, but this strudel was amazing. I have never tasted anything like it before. Never tasted anything like it since. And it is by far the best strudel I have ever had. So the first night he brings it home and he said, I'll just try this. And he knew I was a little iffy on the white chocolate things. He said, I'll just try this. He said, this sounded really good. And I go, what? He said, oh, it's just an apple strudel. And I tasted it. I'm like, this is really good. And he goes, well, can I have it? I'm like, no. But I had that strudel 3 nights in a row. We were there for 3 nights. I had it all 3 nights. I don't care. And he actually took me over to the cart to show me where the cart was. And because we actually went and got our dessert one night. The second night we went and got our dessert before. So I'll come over and see what else they got. I was like, okay. And I get down, I'm going down the list and white apple strudel. Yep, I'll take the white apple strudel. But it's like, you had that last night. I says, yes, so. But I was determined I was going to have, when would I get back here again? When would I even have a chance to get this really amazing white chocolate apple strudel? And it was something else. It was something else. But anyway, I got a puppy that needs a WALK. And I'm getting the evil eye, so I better get moving. But go out, have a super fantastic sparkling rest of your evening. Remember, just to make those small changes. And that's one thing that I'm learning with this raw chocolate, because it's actually a raw chocolate course. So nothing is processed. It's all raw ingredients. And he gives you like little nutrition lessons along the way, which is kind of cute. But he says, you just got to make the small changes that lead to the bigger changes. He said, just slowly start introducing these desserts or these drinks into your lifestyle of and they're really quick and easy to make. It's not like fiddly or there's no baking. We haven't baked anything yet. No, we haven't baked anything yet. There's been times when he's gone and heated something up, and then you cut back, but or refrigerated. Refrigerated was the big one. But everything so far has been non-cooked, except for when he had to go heat up the mug of hot chocolate. Can't have, yeah. And but he's been talking about all these, just make a small change. You want something simple for dessert, you use something like the mousse, and you can layer it with fruit. You can layer it with granola, muesli, whatever. Put it into a wine glass or something like that. Just make it look pretty. And I don't have wine glasses. I don't drink wine. I don't need them. But I've got other glasses I can use, and I'm saying, that's not a bad idea. But and he's just, it's just simple stuff to make, and that's one thing that I like about these videos is that it's all very simple. It doesn't take long, and it can be done very quickly. And if you've got to refrigerate it, you make it that morning. You put it in the fridge till later on that afternoon or evening, and you've now got chocolate bites, or you've got chocolate balls, or you've got some chocolate cake that you can now have for dessert, and it's a healthy dessert. It's a healthy dessert. He doesn't put sugar in anything. For sweetener, he uses organic honey. Is his main one. He has in the last 2 recipes used coconut sugar, which does not. And I find coconut sugar very sweet, but it doesn't have an impact on the glycemic index. So that was kind of interesting to learn that, despite the fact that I know how sweet it is, and the fact that he uses it and says it has no impact on him. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm there. If I can, actually, that would go really good on porridge. Anyway, I gotta go walk a dog. So have a super fantastic sparkling rest of your tune-up Tuesday, and we'll catch you back here bright and early tomorrow morning for Winning Wednesday. Hey, Conetta.